Level 1. The red-eye flight. You stand before the mirror in the airport bathroom. You reapply your perfect red lipstick under the humming fluorescent lights. Outside the terminal, the neon glow of the Las Vegas Strip slowly fades into the desert night. In an hour, you will hold the lives of 300 passengers in your manicured hands. You are their ultimate guardian. You represent their safety. But your bank account is currently negative. $150,000. You are Sarah. You are 32 years old. You serve as the purser for a major domestic airline. To the outside world, your entire life appears utterly flawless. You lease a very expensive apartment in Manhattan. Your navy blue uniform is meticulously pressed. People look at you and immediately see authority. They see a seasoned professional who has absolutely everything under control. They do not see your crippling credit card debt. They do not see your massive casino losses. The house always wins in the end. You learned that brutal lesson the hard way. You made a terrible administrative choice to cover your tracks. You quietly embezzled from the flight attendant union pension fund. You honestly thought you could win the money back. You just needed one lucky streak at the blackjack tables. That winning streak never actually came. Instead, someone noticed the missing funds. Someone secretly recorded your tearful confession in a cheap motel room. That audio file now serves as the ultimate leverage. If the recording leaks, you lose the Manhattan apartment and your prestigious career. You go directly to federal prison. You smooth your skirt and walk out toward the crowded departure gate. You put on your warmest customer service smile. You casually greet the tired passengers heading back to New York. Everything around you feels entirely normal. Then your phone buzzes with a new message. Level 2. The Insider. You look down at your glowing screen. The text message contains no explicit threats. It contains no demands for a wire transfer. It only has 3 simple characters. Seat 2A. You feel a sudden drop in your stomach. The blackmailer is not safely hidden on the ground in Nevada. He is right here, on the aircraft with you. He is watching your every single move. You take a very deep breath. You force your trembling hands to stop shaking. You walk purposefully toward the first-class cabin. The premium cabin smells like warm, mixed nuts and expensive cologne. You grab a silver tray of champagne flutes. You slowly approach seat 2A. The man sitting in the aisle seat looks entirely unremarkable. He wears a perfectly tailored gray suit. He quietly reads a daily financial newspaper. He does not look like a dangerous terrorist. He looks like a wealthy corporate executive heading home. You offer him a glass. He slowly lowers his newspaper. He makes direct and unblinking eye contact with you. He smiles a very cold and calculating smile. He casually pulls back the lapel of his suit jacket. You instantly brace yourself to see a deadly weapon. You fully expect to see a wire or an explosive device. Instead, you see a silver badge pinned next to a shoulder holster. It is an official federal badge. He is a certified TSA Federal Air Marshal. He represents the ultimate security authority on this particular flight. Here is where the dynamic completely shifts. He slides a small glass vial onto your silver tray. He hides it flawlessly under a white linen beverage napkin. The mysterious liquid inside the vial is entirely clear. He speaks to you in a very soft and even tone. He tells you to take the glass vial. He tells you to pour it directly into the pilot's coffee. He casually says it will merely make the flight crew drowsy. He promises the audio recording will be permanently deleted upon landing. You stare blankly at the federal shield, resting quietly on his chest. You know air marshals are the only individuals legally armed on domestic flights. They are explicitly trusted to prevent violent hijackings. They represent the absolute highest level of American aviation security. You silently slide the cold vial into your uniform apron pocket. You walk back to the isolated forward galley. You do not allow yourself to panic. You rationalize the terrifying situation almost immediately. You tell yourself you are not actually helping a violent criminal. You are simply following direct orders from a sworn federal agent. This event must be a highly classified national security drill. The government tests airline readiness protocols like this all the time. It is a sanctioned federal operation designed to expose system vulnerabilities. You tell yourself this lie because it is infinitely easier to swallow than the awful truth. You are just doing your job. Level 3. The turbulence. The massive Boeing commercial aircraft hits violently rough air over the Rocky Mountains. The bright seatbelt sign chimes loudly through the darkened passenger cabin. Tired passengers groan and shift nervously in their incredibly narrow economy seats. You retreat immediately to the isolated forward galley area. The workspace is incredibly cramped and unforgiving. It always smells like stale roasted coffee and heated industrial plastic. You draw the heavy blue curtain shut. You are completely alone. You carefully pull the cold glass vial from your uniform apron pocket. Your manicured hands are shaking violently. The severe turbulence provides the absolute perfect cover. Anyone secretly watching would naturally think the bumpy plane is making you unsteady. You pour 2 cups of hot, dark roast coffee. You snap the top off the tiny glass vial. You carefully distribute the clear liquid. Between the 2 paper cups, the liquid dissolves instantly. It leaves absolutely no trace behind. It has no smell and no color. You place the cups on a small plastic tray. You take a very deep and steadying breath. You punch the secure FA code into the cockpit door keypad. The heavy steel door clicks open. The cockpit is bathed in the soft glow of instrument panels. The noise of the rushing wind is deafening. The veteran captain smiles warmly at you. He actually attended your wedding 5 years ago. He takes his cup with a grateful nod. He takes a very long and satisfying sip. Half the job is done. Here is where it gets interesting. You turn to the young first officer. You hold out the second steaming cup. He shakes his head politely. He declines the coffee entirely. He explains he is doing a strict intermittent fasting protocol. He can only consume water for the next 16 hours. It is a massive health trend in the States right now. He enthusiastically talks about his metabolic window and his fitness goals. Every single word he speaks sounds like a ticking clock. You stand completely frozen in the tight and cramped space. The tray suddenly feels incredibly heavy. The perfectly spiked coffee sits untouched. The entire plan hinges on both pilots drinking the liquid. One awake pilot ruins everything. One awake pilot means the Air Marshal acts. It means the recording leaks to the public. It means you lose your Manhattan apartment. It means a lengthy sentence in federal prison. You cannot force him to drink it. You cannot just leave it sitting there. The first officer takes a sip from his personal water bottle. It is a massive plastic sports jug covered in gym stickers. He sets it down heavily on the center console. He turns his attention back to the glowing radar screen. Your panicked mind races through a dozen terrible options. You are running out of time. The older captain is already blinking heavily. The powerful synthetic drug is clearly working fast. The cockpit is too small for any sudden movements. You need a new strategy immediately. The turbulence shakes the aircraft violently. Again. The first officer reaches forward to adjust the radio dial. He looks completely away from the center console. You stare intently at his brightly colored water bottle. The plastic lid is flipped wide open. Level 4. The breach. You stare at the massive plastic jug. The bright yellow lid is flipped entirely open. The young first officer is currently distracted. He leans over the complex center console. He reaches up to adjust the overhead panel switches. His attention is entirely focused on the weather radar. The older captain is already rubbing his heavy eyes. He yawns widely behind his steering yoke. The powerful sedative is working perfectly on him. You have a maximum window of 3 seconds. You do not hesitate. You slide the second coffee cup behind the plastic tray. You pull the empty glass vial from your apron pocket. It still contains exactly 3 drops of the clear liquid. You lean forward smoothly. You squeeze the remaining liquid directly into his water jug. You quickly wipe the plastic rim with a white napkin. You step back just as he turns around. He thanks you again for checking on them. He grabs his heavy water bottle. He takes a massive gulp to clear his dry throat. He swallows the liquid completely. You smile warmly at him. You offer a very polite nod. You gather the empty trash. You turn around to leave the flight deck. The captain suddenly calls out your name. He asks about your husband. He fondly remembers the beautiful catering at your wedding reception. He mentions the delicious crab cakes you served 5 years ago. Your brain entirely separates the brutal reality from the polite fiction. You perform the friendly flight attendant routine flawlessly. You stand there, inside the cramped cockpit. You make entirely normal small talk with a dying man. You laugh politely at his gentle jokes. Your voice does not shake at all. Your hands are perfectly steady now. You compliment his new grandchildren. You ask to see the recent photos on his phone. He happily shows you a picture of a smiling baby. You tell him the baby looks exactly like him. You wish them both a very quiet rest of the flight. You step backwards out of the cockpit. Now, listen carefully to this part. You grab the heavy steel handle. You pull the fortified door shut. The post 911 armored door clicks loudly into place. The automated locking mechanism engages. With a heavy thud, you punch the standard FAA security code into the keypad. Nobody can enter without their explicit permission. You stand alone in the dark forward galley. They trust you completely. The humming engines sound incredibly loud. You take a long and shaky breath. You begin to rationalize the entire sequence of events. You tell yourself, they are only sleeping. The liquid is just a heavy sedative. The pilots will simply take a short nap. The aircraft is already cruising safely. On autopilot, modern aviation systems are incredibly advanced. The plane practically flies itself across the country. The sophisticated computers will easily maintain the altitude. The automated systems will handle the rough weather. The flight management computer knows exactly where to go. You convince yourself, nobody is going to die tonight. The federal agent will handle the situation upon landing. You just understand how things truly work. Now, you are not a violent terrorist. You are just a professional employee managing a severe crisis. You are simply following a classified security protocol. You are protecting your prestigious career. You are saving your luxury Manhattan apartment. You are keeping your terrible casino secrets permanently hidden. You are a good person trapped in a bad situation. Every choice you made tonight had a completely logical justification. You just want to survive this horrible flight. You smooth your uniform skirt again. You wipe a bead of sweat from your forehead. You check your perfect reflection in the mirror. You prepare to serve breakfast to the premium cabin. The rationalization makes the immense guilt completely disappear. You tell yourself it is good policy. You do not examine that possibility too closely. Level 5, the loop of doom. You stand alone. In the forward galley, you begin organizing the premium breakfast trays. Everything seems entirely normal for exactly 10 minutes. Then, the ambient cabin noise suddenly shifts. The steady roar of the jet engines drops significantly. A bright red warning light flashes violently above you. It is the master caution indicator. The nose of the massive aircraft abruptly pitches downward. The carpeted floor drops sharply beneath your black shoes. Gravity shifts backwards. Through the long passenger cabin, unsecured coffee pots crash loudly onto the plastic floor. The sophisticated autopilot system has clearly been disengaged. The commercial airliner is no longer flying level. The plane is entering a very steep and fatal dive. The invisible altitude numbers are spinning rapidly, downwards. You abandon the breakfast carts immediately. You stumble heavily toward the armored cockpit door. The yellow oxygen masks drop from the ceiling compartments. Passengers begin screaming, "In the dark cabin behind you!" You punch your emergency override code into the keypad. The electronic light flashes a solid, angry red. Access is completely denied. You type the secret numbers in again. You press the buttons frantically, with bleeding fingers. The red light blinks back at you, twice. You realize the horrifying mechanical truth. The secondary manual deadbolt has been thrown. It can only be locked from the inside. The older captain must have collapsed forward. His heavy sleeping body is likely pressing against the control yoke. He literally locked you out before he passed out. You beat your fists against the solid steel door. You scream their names over the rushing wind. Nobody answers you. From the other side, the silence from the cockpit is entirely deafening. You are completely trapped in the freezing sky. You turn away from the impenetrable metal wall. You sprint desperately back into the first-class cabin. You need the armed federal agent to do something. You need him to physically breach the heavy door. You look frantically towards seat 2A. The air marshal is not standing up. He is not drawing his federal weapon. He is sitting perfectly still in his wide leather seat. His heavy lap belt is pulled incredibly tight. His tray table is locked securely in the upright position. His eyes are closed, in complete and utter peace. He looks like a man, simply waiting for the inevitable impact. The absolute terror finally washes over your entire body. He never intended to hijack this aircraft. He never wanted to land the plane safely anywhere. He wanted this exact, catastrophic result. He is a professional cleaner for the deep state. You look directly across the wide center aisle. A very prominent politician sits frozen in seat 2F. He is a famous federal prosecutor investigating corporate corruption. You recognize his terrified face from the evening news broadcasts. You suddenly understand the true scale of the massive operation. A sudden plane crash is the absolutely perfect political assassination. A deeply sedated flight crew leaves no physical evidence behind. Federal investigators will simply blame severe pilot fatigue. They will officially rule it a tragic human error. The black boxes will only record a highly silent descent. You just facilitated the perfect, untraceable murder. You sold out 300 innocent lives for absolutely nothing. You doomed an entire aircraft to save one Manhattan apartment. You destroyed a passenger plane to hide one audio file. The blackmailer never even cared about your gambling debts. Your pathetic secrets were simply the cheapest available leverage. They found your weakness and exploited it flawlessly. You stumble backwards into your designated jump seat. You pull the heavy red shoulder harnesses over your chest. You buckle yourself in for the final plunging descent. The screaming in the cabin grows deafeningly loud. You stare blankly at the gray plastic bulkhead wall. You realize the ultimate truth about the corrupt world. The system didn't corrupt you through dramatic moral failures. It shaped you through 10,000 tiny, selfish decisions. Every terrible choice you made had a perfectly logical justification. Every single compromise had a comforting internal precedent. Every dark rationalization was shared by colleagues you completely respected. You started this evening simply wanting to serve hot coffee. You ended up being the direct cause of mass murder. The system doesn't threaten you with a loaded gun. It threatens you with the exact secrets you want to hide. The sky doesn't need monsters to fall. It just needs a professional making one reasonable compromise at a time.